This is another one of those watches that I am familiar with from afar. I've seen it online, I've seen it on Instagram, but I've never seen one up close. And after having hands on with this watch up close in the metal on the wrist, it's a very surprising watch. And it's not just one of those pleasant, oh, cool kind of surprises. It is one of those crap. I think I need this watch. It is insanely cool. That said, I know the ProPlof is not only not to everyone's cup of tea, but it's not even close to being universally desirable. It has a very limited market, limited appeal. It's huge, it's funky, it's asymmetrical. I would even say it's fair to call it weird looking. My wife, as I showed her this piece this week, literally called it the ugliest watch she has ever seen outside of my Spinnaker SpongeBob limited edition. And you know what? You really can't blame millimeters wide, which is interesting because generally a watch is longer than it is wide, but that's the opposite here with the ProPlof. And it has a massive lefty crown with just beefy crown protectors. The total height of the case is 18.39 from 54 years ago. I think Omega gives zero cares to what other people think. There's Aquaterras and Planet Oceans. As awesome as those watches are, they have wide appeal. This watch is really not for this watch is for true dive watch lovers. And let me explain why I enjoy it so much, and then you let me know if you understand my reasoning or if you think I'm off base. Tell me where. So I think a diver needs to be robust, resilient, reliable conditions, and I think it needs to be easy to operate at all times. It must be adjustable when it comes to some of you. And this ProPlof has all of that. It has the robustness, the legibility, the shock resistance, the magnetic resistance, the accuracy, the originality, one of the toughest watches that you can buy, complete with a chunky grade 5 titanium case, 1,200 meters of water resist lock system. There's a protected thread down style crown. It really looks like a tough tool watch. And the no date white dial, I think, has good contrast. So it is easy to read at a glance, especially with this bright orange large minute hand. Your eye really gravitates to that, that hand on the dial. The blue ceramic bezel is beautiful. It's one of the nicest blue shades that I've seen on a diver, but the best part is it's fully loomed. So it doesn't matter if you're outside in natural light, inside in a room, or under a lake or an ocean surface, you're going to find this a perfectly legible watch. And I would also say this lume beats out any Seamaster or Planet Ocean, and it does it pretty easily. And that's hard to do because those watches have good lume. I would say this goes toe to toe with the Omega Ultra Deep. These two watches have the best lume that I've ever seen on any Omega diver. Now, is this ProPlof easy to use? I would say yes, but with a caveat. The caveat is it looks intimidating and it's a little different from a standard diver. So once you use the crown and use the bezel, use the push button lock system, a few times you adjust to it and it becomes easy to use. But at first glance, it might appear a little intimidating. Now let me just show you how to use the bezel and the crown. If you want to move the bezel, you have to push down this lock button over here. And once you do that, you can spin the bezel in either direction. When you let go of the button, that bezel is locked into position and it won't accidentally move. So you do need two hands to operate the bezel. And I think that's a safety feature. This is not going out of alignment accidentally if you knock it against a rock or some coral or something like that as you're using it as a dive watch. Pretty cool system. This is how you use the crown. It's a thread down crown. You just unthread it and then pull it out to the various positions to operate the jump hours feature or the winding or hacking and setting the time. It's not locked down. It's not like a Panerai Luminor where you need to open the flip lock. This is just a thread down style crown, and the crown protection system moves alongside the crown. So it's pretty cool when you get a closer look at it. Now let me show you the bracelet. This is what's called a shark mesh. It is a tapering oversized mesh style bracelet that looks very nice. And the clasp here is absolutely massive, but it is very functional. There's a twin trigger release. There is a ridiculous amount of quick adjustment. That quick adjustment is ratcheting when you're pushing it back into position. So you actually have to press a button to open the quick extension system. And then while the watch is on wrist, you can ratchet it down to the proper travel for your wrist. I do like that. And it does come with a wetsuit extension system. Just like this silly huge case, this clasp is likewise gigantic, and I think complements the overall design. Note that there will be the signature here and also the seahorse engraved on this grade 5 titanium clasp. You can also opt for this on the rubber strap, which is colorized to match the bezel. And like I mentioned earlier in the video, I really enjoy the shade of blue. So I think this watch looks sharp on the blue rubber strap. That blue complements the orange accents of the various components found on the case. You'll see it on the Seamaster signature. You'll see it on that minute hand. You'll see it on the tip of the seconds hand. And you'll also see it on the bezel lock button. Now, inside the case, and visible behind a sapphire display crystal, which in and of itself is kind of impressive. You don't often see display crystals on watches that have 1,200 meters of water resistance. But inside the case, there is one of the greatest everyday movements that's ever been created by this brand. It's called the 8912. It's a META-certified coaxial movement with all of the tech that you like to see as a watch collector. It has a free-sprung balance, a silicone hairspring. It has a full balance bridge anchored in 2 positions. This has variable inertia regulation when it comes to the balance wheel. This has 60 hours of power reserve, and it does have the time zone jumping hour feature, which without the date complication is just so handy for adjusting the time when you travel or if you observe daylight savings. So I really love this complication. Comes in very handy. Now let's step back and take an overall appraisal of this piece. It is a brutal, toolish design, but that said, it does have a surprising amount of finesse that is noticeable under the macro lens. Little elements like a subtle enamel-like white dial. It's not bright, stark white. It's not ceramic, so you see the little engraving of the ceramic done. This is it's just a really sharp white dial. It has just the right amount of reflective light glow without becoming distracting. There are blue applied markers and tall, crisp blue text that is printed, and also the index work for the minutes and whatnot. I also like the little lines that come in toward the hand stack inside of the smaller applied markers. So it's very balanced, it's very legible, and it does have that finesse under the macro lens that is unexpected for this brutal, toolish design. Now, what about negatives when it comes to the ProPlof? As I've spent time with this, there are really 2 things that came to my mind. One is it's expensive, and that's hard to justify if you're buying a watch that you're not going to wear that often. I would wear this regularly because I wear tool watches all the time. I'm a very casual person when it comes to my everyday life, but definitely this is not a watch that you could wear everywhere. And so to spend a whole lot of money on something that might not be used all that much is kind of a difficult thing to come to terms with. And then the other aspect of it is this is hard to find. You really don't see them at authorized dealers often. Actually, all of the main colors have been discontinued that came out back in 2015. The only ProPlof that Omega makes right now is the summer blue, and they have there are not many on the market at the moment, if any. So they're hard to come by new, they're hard to come by used, and they are expensive. And that is something that complicates the purchase decision for myself. Some would say that the 1970 styling and the overall size is a negative, but I think that is exactly the opposite. I'm not one to try to wear this with a shirt cuff because I know exactly what this watch is. It is a bad watch. Not bad as in poor, but bad as in a cool way, a cool watch. So I really enjoy it. I'm very impressed. I very much want to buy one. And right now, I'm looking at this and I'm looking at an Ultra Deep, which I also adore, and I'm leaning toward this ProPlof, but that might be recency bias talking. I'd have to explore these two a little bit further. I also recognize that the market for this watch is small, it's limited, it's not for everyone, and that's probably another reason why I enjoy it to the degree that I do, because I gravitate toward those off the beaten path watches that you don't see every day. Now, I'd like to know what you think. Am I just being a little infatuated with the ProPlof? Do you see the appeal of it? Do you think it's ridiculous? Share your opinions below. I'd welcome that discourse. And I'd like to thank my friend Bruno here in closing. Bruno is my friend, local here in Utah. I borrow watches from him from time to time, and I am completely envious of two in his collection. One is the Breguet Tradition in rose gold, absolutely marvelous. And the other one is this ProPlof. So thank you to Bruno. I really appreciate your generosity and allowing me to try this hard to come by watch. And lastly, if you enjoyed this video, please like it. Please subscribe to my channel. I post varied luxury watch content every few days. I try to bring the variety and focus in on the details. So if you can support me by subscribing, I'd really appreciate that.